I think a version of the movie could have been done 10 or 15 years ago, but not as sophisticatedly and at a greater cost, I imagine. There are things we can do now with visual effects that couldn't be done a long time ago, and ways we can combine physical human beings, organic creatures, with visual effects, extend things and manipulate things, and that's the real challenge here. We're not creating digital characters, and we're not blowing up many buildings. We're really enhancing physical human beings in a way, actual real creatures, real actors, real people.
You know, I really think the major responsibility of a visual effects supervisor is to help the director tell the story. Just like production designers and cinematographers, we have to work with the director to make sure that the story the director is trying to tell and the vision that's being conveyed in the movie is unified and works all together to support that. And I don't think most people think of visual effects supervisors as anything more than technicians. I mean, most people think of us as somebody who says, oh no, you can't do that because that's too bright or that's too dark or we'll never be able to put that together. Can't do that. And in fact, that's an important part of our job, and that part comes from experience. But the part that's critical to what we do is to be able to creatively come up with ideas for sequences that will tell the story.
Object we're photographing today, we hope, shooting, is the interior of the torch of the Statue of Liberty after Magneto has installed his machine in the torch. And he's captured Rogue and placed her in the machine. We previously photographed Rogue in front of a blue screen, acting as if she's captured and held in the machine. And we're now about to shoot the machine starting to spin and tearing the skin of the torch apart in the process. So we built a miniature which is a little less than half scale of the real torch, and have a very large mechanism and heavily built hoops, we call them hoops, to tear through a tearaway effects rigged skin. And the skin that'll be behind the hoops will look like the interior of the skin that forms the torch on the Statue of Liberty. This will become the background plate to go behind Rogue, who was shot blue screen.
Roll camera. Okay. Action. Cut. Roll camera. Hey, action. Cut. And play it back.
That was weird. I don't know if I like it. I was picking up.
Check your lights.
What happened is one of the lamps got bumped and hit this right on the shower head. But you still, I think you still have some.
All we need is.
We just have it.
Yeah, well, we're at 48 frames, so we might have it.
That happened right. I mean, I have no idea how that happened.
Okay, well, that's fine. That's good. We're good.
We are using just about every technique there is available right now because that's the kind of film it is. It's about the X-Men. The X-Men all have different powers. Storm can control the weather. Cyclops has the beams he shoots from his eyes. Magneto can bend metal and contort things and fly because he can use his magnetic power to resist other metallic elements and raise himself in the air. You know, Logan/Wolverine has claws. Rogue can very subtly steal other people's powers or their life force. If she was to stick around touch them long enough, they could die. And we're certainly using it all, and the list is pretty long, so I don't think I have to get into that. But I think we're taking an approach which is maybe unique these days in terms of telling a story when you're dealing with big action heroes. There are a number of times in the movie when Mystique transforms into other characters. And we're trying very hard here to not do a two-dimensional, for lack of a better term, morph. And many morphs, even when they're three-dimensional, look, it's not much different than a two-dimensional morph because you're simply taking one object which is two-dimensional on film and replacing it with another object which is two-dimensional on film. And you can do some strange shape shifts and things to try to give it a 3D feel, but generally, you know, it looks like a morph. A morph is a spatial transformation as opposed to a dissolve, the traditional film technique, which is a temporal transition, just happens over time. And morphs are spatial, in which two different shapes are brought into congruence so that one shape and the other shape fit together, and then the surface is changed. And it's traditionally done as a two-dimensional technique where you create essentially a mesh that fits over each of the different characters you're doing, and you bring the two meshes into alignment. Then when you animate the two meshes and they're pulling the image together, it looks like you're transitioning from one image to another, but it's only working on the filmed image. It's not working on the image in 3 dimensions. But what we had to do here with Mystique was create an effect, because she grows scales, because she really is Bobby, including his clothes, his wristwatch, his eyeglasses if he had eyeglasses. Whatever he's got on his body is created by Mystique. So, you know, unlike some other films where you may see her transform and she'd still be wearing his clothes, she creates the clothes as well. That's what she can do. So as he walks forward, he has to change in size and shape, in profile to us, and he also has to propagate scales, but these work in 3 dimensions. They come out on the sides of his arms, they come out in the foreground of his arms. So there's a 3D model which has to move in perfect sync with his model. And then his model has to be shape-shifted to match her model. These all have to be brought together. So it's truly, the work is truly being done in 3 dimensions. It's not just working on the filmed surface. We're creating these people in CG and then using the filmed elements to get us from point A to point B. But in this case, point B is fully CG. The only thing that's not CG at the end of this shot is the hallway.
This is our Mystique to Bobby transformation. And here's our database of Bobby. And this is prior to be putting into our track. So this is essentially the effect taking place, our 3D morph. And as we cycle through, only certain pieces of them transform and become Mystique. And as we cycle through, it slowly becomes, Bobby starts turning into Mystique. Starts getting different body shape. So this is our 3D database shaded. This is phase 1 of the effect where we do the actual shape shift. Phase 2 is when we get it into the track, and then we apply her scale animation to it, which is all 3D animated geometry. She has something like, I think we're close to about 8,000 scales on her body, and to animate all those scales at once would be a very time-consuming process. So using luminance values that we extract from these maps, which become the texture maps, where it drives a cycle animation on the scales. So basically, as it's wiping down her body, it triggers the animation of the scales just flying out.
I'm a big fan of practical effects. You know, CGI